Welcome back, mathematicians. Today we are moving on with our lessons on hands-on equations to lesson number 2. So go ahead on either your notebook paper and Notability. We're going to label our notes, hands-on equations, lesson number 2. All right, if you remember from lesson number 1, we used a lot of just guess and check or just kind of figuring out some of our own strategies, and the balances were already set up for us. What we're going to do today is we're going to add in a little bit more of the algebraic writing to it. And so we're going to be looking at how we can use those balances and those manipulatives in a visual way, but from a traditionally written algebra problem or a traditionally written equation. So one thing we're going to look at is we're actually going to give a name to that triangle or that pawn. So the name that the program uses is it calls the triangle the pawn. But what we're going to use it as is we can call it a pawn, we can call it a triangle, but the thing I want you to know is that that triangle is also known as X. Okay, so we're using that triangle to replicate or represent an X in a traditional equation. For example, if I were to give you the equation 2x plus x is equal to x plus 8. Now, if we hadn't done this stuff with hands-on equations, you might look at this and start to freak out a little bit and be like, why are there x's in there? But the thing we need to do is just kind of step back and look at it in a more visual way so that it becomes easier to kind of look at. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to replace each of those x's with a pawn or a triangle. One thing I want you to note is to remember that this 2x means I have 2 x's, right? So when I represent that, what it means is I'm actually going to draw in 2 pawns because I have 2 x's plus another x, so another pawn or another triangle. That represents the left side of my balance. And then on the right side, I'm going to have a pawn or an x and an 8. And now it looks more traditionally like what we did for lesson 1. So we're just kind of look at what's different on each side. So we can kind of look here, these two kind of match up together. So really when I'm balancing, I'm looking at how does this balance with the 8. So I might say, oh, well, then if 2 triangles equal 8, then the triangle has to equal 4. And just like what we did on lesson 1, we're going to go ahead and do a check with this, but I'm always going to go back to that original equation. So I'm actually going to come back and use this. So I'm going to do 2 times the value that I found for x, or my pawn, which is going to be 4, plus 4 has to be the same as 4 plus 8. Order of operations, I have to do my multiplication first. So this becomes 8 plus 4, and then 4 plus 8 is 12. So here we have 12 equals 12. So it goes ahead and checks. So now we know that that pawn was equal to 4. All right, let's try another one. On this one, we have 4x is the same as or equal to 3x plus 5. What I want you to do is I want you to pause the video, and the first thing I want you to do, even if you don't know how to solve it, is see if you can at least represent it using those pawns or those triangles and our blocks. All right, hopefully you represented the 4x on the left with 4 filled in triangles. And then on the right, our 3 x's are going to be 3 triangles and then a block worth 5. Now you might be at a point where you're still guessing and checking. It's totally okay. Some of you are starting to develop some strategies. We kind of talked about those, like what's the same on both sides, and then what's different. So we kind of look at, in this situation, we've got those 4 triangles and 3 triangles, so you can kind of think about what's balancing with each other, what's the same, and we know that all triangles have the same value. So here we end up finding that our triangle is equal to 5. I'm going to go back and do my check. So this becomes 4 times 5 has to be balanced or the same as 3 times 5 plus 5. 4 times 5 is 20. 3 times 5 is 15 plus 5. So we end up with 20 equals 20. All right, if those 2 examples are enough, you can go ahead and get started on your practice, but I am going to go through one more additional problem for those of you that need it. All right, I would like you to try this problem on your own. So it's going to be 3x plus 1 is the same as x plus 7. Let's go ahead and pause the video, try this one on your own. All right, so our 3x's become our 3 triangles plus a weight of 1 have to be balanced with 1 triangle and a weight of 7. This one might be a little bit tougher. You might need to guess and check. In a situation like this, you might try 1. So, for example, 1 plus 1 plus 1 is 3, plus 1 is 4, so 4 wouldn't balance with this. If we tried 2, 2 plus 2 is 4, plus 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7, that won't balance. And then if we try 3 plus 3 is 6, plus 3 more is 9, plus 1 is 10, 3 plus 7 is 10. So we might find out just through guess and check that our triangle here was equal to 3. And we can do our check. 3 times 3 plus 1 is equal to 3 plus 7 . 9 plus 1 is 10. 3 plus 7 is 10. So that goes and checks out. So make sure you like and comment below if you have any questions. You can send me an email, reach out as always. Otherwise, go ahead and start on your practice.